Assalamu alaikum, my dear students. I hope you all are doing well. Welcome back to History Lesson 2. In yesterday's lesson, we were discussing the Bactrian Greeks, who were the first group to invade the Gandhara civilization, and King Menander is our today's topic, and he was also a famous ruler of the Bactrian kings. So, let's start with his introduction. Menander I was a famous and wise ruler. He ruled around 160 BC to 150 or 130 BC. He conquered a large part of northern India. Greek nobles ruled cities, but Indian languages were used with common people. So is all about the rule of King Menander, that during his reign, the dealings with ordinary people were supposed to be used in Indian languages because there were many Indians among Menander's advisors and officials. During his reign, the capital city was Sagala. Menander built the capital Sagala near today's Sialkot in Pakistan, Punjab. Sagala was a rich and well-planned city. It had good street system, strong walls, a moat for protection. Students, moat means a wide, deep ditched area filled with water. So it is all about Sagala, and more about Sagala is given in source 9.3 of your book, page number 114, that its streets are filled with elephants, horses, carriages, and foot passengers, and crowded by men of all sorts and conditions, Brahmins, nobles, craftsmen, and servants. I will explain it in further slides. Now we are talking about the development of cities. Menander rebuilt Texela and Charsada in Greek style. Greek craftsmen influenced buildings and sculptures. Texela became an important center for Buddhism and learning. Many students came there to continue their learning as it was also important center for education. And Charsada means char means four and sada means road. So that area was surrounded by four roads. So that's why it was named as Charsada, and it was built in Greek style because Greek craftsmen influenced buildings and sculpture. So here's a more description of Sagala. City had many shops with expensive goods, many large houses and halls. Streets were busy with elephants, horses, carriages. Many people were nobles, craftsmen, and servants there in Sagala, which is in present day Sialkot. Okay, students, the next group to invade Gandhara after Menander's death and the ending of the rule of Bactrian Greeks, the group was the Shakas. After Menander died in 140 BC, Greek rulers started fighting. The Shakas invaded the region. They were nomadic people from Central Asia. They were strong warriors and skilled horse riders. So it was easy for them to invade, and during the fighting situation of the Greek rulers, they took a chance to rule Gandhara. Their further conquests included over next 50 years they controlled Indus Valley, Gujarat, Mathura and Ujjain after the ending of the Bactrian rules. And students, here's a discussion about expansion of Shakas. The Shakas entered the Indus Valley through the Khyber and Bulan passes. In 50 BC, they conquered Gandhara. They made Taxila as their capital. As we studied that during the Bactrian rule, the capital was Sagala, which is in present day Sialkot we are living in, and in the Shakas rule, they made their own capital Taxila. So it was all about the difference between the kings who were supposed to rule the region at that time. Okay, students, the next group who came after the Shakas were the Parthians. Who were the Parthians? An Iranian people from Central Asia ruled from 247 BC to 224 AD, rivals of Rome in the east. Students, these are some points which you can easily remember for MCQs and for the objective of the chapter, and these are also an important source of information about the certain group. So please write them down while listening to the lecture. Okay, students, the next group to invade Gandhara after the Parthians were the Shakas. So, we are discussing now the coming of the Shakas in about AD 64, Kushan invasions. Led by ruler Bhima, catfishes marched into Afghanistan and the Indian subcontinent. So, the Kushans were the first to defeat two groups, the Parthians and Shakas, and ruled over in this area. Okay, Kushan rule is all about the power of the king Kanishka. He did not drive out the Shakas. They accepted actually the rule of Kushan kings as long as they governed their own princes in the area, because they actually found a great empire. The Kushans went on to found a great empire which lasted a significant impact on the Gandhara civilization and also their cultures and traditions. Okay, students, here's a description of the Kushans. They were described as big, pink faced men who wore coats and long skirts and sat on chairs. Okay, students, after that discussion, now let's read together it from your book. About the Bactrian rules, who were the first group to invade the Gandhara civilization. He probably ruled from about 160 BC to 150 or 130 BC and conquered a large part of northern India. During his reign, the cities were ruled by Greek nobles and officials, but Indian languages were used in dealings with ordinary people. There were many Indians among Menander's advisors and officials. Menander built a capital Sagala near today's Sialkot in Punjab province. Sagala was a wealthy city with a well-designed street system, strong walls and a moat. Students, moat is a deep, wide and dished area filled with water. And in source 9.3 you can see that a description of Sagala from Questions of Melinda. This was a book according recording Menander's discussions with Nagasena, a Buddhist monk. Melinda is the Buddhist name for Menander. So, this yellow box description is all about Sagala, which is in present time Sialkot we are living in. Its shops are filled with many sorts of expensive goods. It is richly decorated with hundreds of alms halls. Students, alms halls are the areas or certain places which are used for giving charity, for example, money and food to the needy people of various kinds, and splendid with hundreds of thousands of magnificent mansions. Its streets are filled with elephants, horses, carriages, and foot passengers, and crowded by men of all sorts and conditions, Brahmins, nobles, and craftsmen, and servants as well. Menander also rebuilt Taxila and Charsada. Char means four, and Sada means road. So that area was surrounded by four roads. That's why it is named as Charsada. In the Greek style, Menander used Greek craftsmen whose work influenced the style of later buildings and sculptures in the subcontinent. Taxila was now becoming an important place in the development of Buddhism, attracting scholars from all over the world. Source 9.4 below tells you more about it. So we will also study source 9.4 in further slide. So, students, the next group who invaded after the Bactrian Greeks on Gandhara civilization was the Shakas. After Menander's death in 140 BC, the Greek rulers of the Bactrian kingdoms quarreled. The Shakas, who had been threatening their borders, were the next to invade. So they just got a chance to rule over this civilization. The Shakas, who were also known as the Sakas or the Scythians, were a nomadic Indo European people from the steppes or grasslands of Central Asia. Students, nomadic people are those people who don't live on a certain place. They just travel from one place to another, they just move according to their conditions. They spoke an Iranian language and were tall, fierce warriors and expert horsemen who fought riding bareback using bows and arrows. So Shakas were warlike people. The Shakas entered the Indus Valley through the Khyber and Bolan passes. In 90 BC, they conquered Gandara, which became the center of the Shaka area. Taxila was chosen as their capital. Over the next 50 years, the Chakas occupied the Indus Valley and the area that is today Gujarat and went on to capture Mathura and Ujjain to the east. The Shakas sent ambassadors to Rome in 25 BC. Their journey took them 4 years. When they arrived, they presented the Emperor Augustus with some unusual gifts. These included tigers, pheasants, and a python, tortoises and a monkey, and an armless boy who could shoot arrows with his toes. So, this was really very amazing and unusual gift to please Augustus. So, Augustus was very pleased. The tigers were the first ever seen in Europe and were shown at the opening of a new theater. Students, pheasants means birds with long tails. These are colorful birds. In source 9.4, a description of Taxila by Philostratus, a Greek writer, is presented. You can read from the yellow box. The city is walled, but they say that it was divided up into narrow streets in the same irregular manner as in Athens, and that the houses were built in such a way that if you look at them from outside, they had only one story, while if you went into one of them, you at once found another underground rooms extending as far below the level of the earth as did the rooms above. So, how was the houses in Taxila? They were just single story but have some underground rooms also. So, this is all about the Shakas. Now we are going to the third group. The third group, the Parthians, to invade Gandhara civilization. The Parthians were also originally a nomadic tribe from Central Asia. By the 1st century BC, the Parthian dynasty had grown into an empire which was centered around Mesopotamia. It extended from the Euphrates River to the river Indus and from the Oxus River, now called Amu River, to the Indian Ocean. After the middle of the 1st century BC, Parthia was strong enough to rival the Roman Empire, and there were several wars between them. The Parthians controlled most of the trade routes between Asia and the Greco Roman world. They made large profits from buying and selling silk on its way from China to Rome. The most famous Parthian king was Gondophares, who ruled from AD 20 to 48. He took Taxila as his capital. After his death, the Parthian kings continued to fight among themselves and were easily conquered by the next wave of invaders, the Kushans. In source 9.6, a Parthian silver bowl from around 1st century BC, bowls, the vessel made of precious metals, were very valuable and show historians the wealth of the Parthian Empire. So, students, this is all about the third invaders, the Parthians, and after the death of their famous king, the other kings continued to fight among themselves and were easily conquered by the next wave of invaders, the Kushans. So, we are now moving towards the coming of the Kushans, the last paragraph of this page. In about AD 64, the Kushans, led by the ruler Vima, catfishes marched into Afghanistan and the subcontinent. The Kushans were described as big pink-faced men who wore coats and long skirts and sat on chairs. So these are the characteristics of the people of Kushans. In a short time, they took Gandara from the Parthians and defeated Shaka rulers in the area. The Kushans did not drive out the Shakas, they allowed them to be governed by their own princes. As long as they accepted the rule of Kushan kings, the Kushans went on to found a great empire. Okay, students, next moving towards their next king, Vima Catfishes, was followed by Kanishka. He is the best known Kushan ruler and may have become king between AD 78 and 128. He ruled for about 22 years. At the time, Kanishka was described as the king of Gandhara. He was a strong military leader who enlarged the empire. Look at the map in source 9.7. Students, I will explain you the map later in the next slide. It shows you that the Kushan empire was very large, covering lands on both sides of the Hindu Kush. It included parts of modern Turkestan in the northwest, the whole of modern Afghanistan, much of the area that is today Pakistan, a large part of northern India. So these were the areas ruled by Kanishka. Like the earlier invaders, the Kushan rulers had a capital in Gandhara. Kanishka's winter capital was at Purushapura, the present day Peshawar. His summer capital was at Kapisa, north of Kabul. So, students, in the previous rules and reigns, like in the Shakas, the capital was Taxila. In the Parthians, the capital was also Taxila. But in the Bactrian Greeks, under the rule of King Menander, the capital was Sagala. And in the Kushans rule, we have studied that it was not only one capital, there were two capitals. The first one was Purushapura and the second one was Kapisa. So the two different capitals was for the two different seasons. Now let me explain this map of source 9.7, the Kushan Empire at the time of Kanishka, AD 128 to 151. So you can see on the map the shaded area, which shows how large the Kushan Empire was. It spread across Afghanistan, Pakistan, parts of India, and areas of Central Asia. Its important cities were Kabul, Peshawar, Taxila, Sialkot, and Medora. Movement of people are shown by blue arrows. Blue arrows show the movement of the Persians. The red arrows show the movement of the Huns in the region. And the region around Peshawar and Taxila was part of Gandhara, which was an important cultural and trade center. Okay, students, here's our question zone, and from today's content, you students are able to answer question number 3, 4, and 5 as we have read about Shakas, Parthians, and the Kushan Empire. So, question number 3 is, how did the Shakas enter the Indus Valley? You can easily answer this question from your book page number 114. Question number 4 is about the Parthians. Who was the most famous Parthian king? So, we have read about the Parthians on page number 115. Question number 5 is, where were Kanishka's two capitals? So, we have discussed in detail about Kanishka's rule. So, you can easily answer this question from page number 116, where it is written that the what were the two capitals during the Kanishka's rule. Okay, students, After searching out the answers to these three questions, write them down on your notebook after the first two questions which you have written in the previous lesson. So, students, here's another activity for you. It's very interesting. It's from your skill book, page number 33, and it's about today's learnt concepts. We have already discussed the invaders who invaded Gandhara, and these were Bactrians, Greeks, Shakas, Parthians, and Kushans who conquered the subcontinent. So, from about 200 BC to around AD 300, groups of invaders conquered the subcontinent, and you students have to do this timeline. First of all, as you do in mathematics in the number line chapter, it is also the similar concept. You have to draw a number line like in mathematics, and on that number line label the periods from 0 to 100 BC, 200 BC, and then on the right side AD 100, AD 200, and AD 300. Then after writing each years, you have to label the group name, like for example Bactrian Greeks invaded in 200 BC. So on 200 BC on the timeline you have to label with Bactrian Greeks. Likewise with the Shakas, Parthians, and Kushans. So in the B part, after completing this timeline, you have to calculate how many years each invader ruled the subcontinent. You can easily count the years and write in front of each group written there in the section B. After doing this, you have to come to the part see which group of invaders ruled for the longest period of time. So once you will have written the periods of different groups, you can easily search out and find that who invaded for the longest period of time. For example, it was Parthians. Let's suppose, so you have to write Parthians over there in the C part of this question. So, here's today's lesson, and hope you all have understood what we have studied today and solved the skill book page number 33, and also write down the questions. And we have now completed our first five questions of chapter 9 Gandhara, and write them down on your notebook as well. Thank you for today. The further part of the chapter will be discussed in the next lesson.